It's so hot.
Yeah, it looks hot.
It's really hot.
Street food. Street foodies. Y'all know I'm a big fan of Lost Plate. They've got food tours in cities throughout China. Last year, I featured the Xi'an food tours on this show, and when I heard about their Shanghai tours, I told the family, look, we're doing this. The family got on board, and we got our snack on. A lot of snacks in this episode, guys. I'm gonna break them down for you. We began at a vegetarian restaurant outside the Shanghai temple. You don't find a lot of vegetarian spots in China, but our guide said that outside Buddhist temples is one of the best places to eat vegetarian. We got this bowl of vegetarian breakfast noodles. 8 treasure noodles. You'll find a lot of 8 treasure dishes throughout China. That's mostly because 8 is a lucky number. It generally just means, hey, there's a mixture of different stuff in this dish. That's a treasure. Noodles for breakfast, though. That brought smiles to the faces of my children. In Shanghai, babao mian basically means a vegetable soup. It's almost on the sweet side, with green vegetables, carrots, muar, and these little tofu balls that were delicious. At the same spot, we got some su wenduan. Veggie wontons in soup. This was not just some pre-packaged garbage wonton soup. I'm talking about fresh vegetables, mushrooms, bok choy. The soup was good, the dumplings were good, but this was only the first spot on the tour. Around the corner from the temple, we walked through an old part of the city with a lot of local flavor. There's actually a heritage site here where a lot of Jewish refugees lived during World War II. This area used to be a Japanese-occupied area back during World War II. And because there were so many different concessions here, you could get in here without a visa. So a lot of the Jews came here to flee the war, World War II. At one time there was more than 20,000 Jews here, a big Jewish community. For a while, Shanghai was one of the only cities in the world that would allow them to come in even if they didn't have papers. Pretty cool. Next snack, Songyobing. I've shown this snack on the show before, way back in season 1 or 2. I even did a bonus recipe for how to make these bings. We got them on the street. They were a bit crispier than I was used to, but super delicious. Green onions and some of this plant-based lard, or whatever that is. You roll out on your dough, break off some hunks, flatten them out, then dollop your onions and your fat. Roll it up, you flatten it down. She was constantly moving them around on the grill, pressing them down with this Bing press tool. My little camera op getting some GoPro footage. For the finishing touch, they toast the bings down inside the grill for about 2 minutes. Oh yeah, this shop also had a cool noodle making machine, though I confess I am partial to the hand-pulled noodles myself. Oh, you want egg with yours? I got you. Right on the pan. Top it with some onions. Call that a street omelet. When the bings are ready, you slide an egg into one. Breakfast sandwich. As we walked through part of the neighborhood, some of the locals stopped us and gave our tour guide a hand. Next, we went through a mid-morning market. Fish on the street, although these did look pretty frozen. Then we went to a little shop that sold chengjianbao, just like Yang's dumplings from last week, and guotie. Pot stickers. The chengjianbao have soup inside, the pot stickers don't, but they still have that crispy layer on the bottom, pork filling. Really good. For the novelty, I'd pick the soup dumplings over the pot stickers, but they're quite similar here, and they were both really good. The snack started to get pretty familiar after that. Youtiao, one of Journey's all-time favorites, along with some fresh soy milk. River was not a fan, but Ashley didn't mind it. Then we tried a Shanghai jianbing guozi. My jam, right? But look, in Shanghai they don't put chili pepper, well they just put a little chili pepper, and the brown sauce is sweet. Loaded up with sugar. Not what I was expecting and not my favorite. But I did get down on it. You know, sweet and spicy mixed together. It's not terrible. I probably just would have preferred a little more spice to go with. Actually, I didn't like the sweet, now that I think about it. I prefer the Xi'an version. The tour wrapped up back at the Shanghai temple. This is a functioning temple, with a steady stream of folks paying their respects, burning incense. The monks live in the back behind the main temple areas. We honestly don't observe that much Buddhism where we live in China. I know that in the rest of the world, Buddhism is kind of a stereotype of Chinese people, but the majority of Chinese people that I know combine kind of a mixture of atheism and then some level of belief that borders between superstition and outright religious observation. But it's a big country, and there are actually a lot of faiths represented, especially in a city like Shanghai. Now, after the food tour, as a reward for sticking with Dad on the street food venture, we took the girls on a tour of a chocolate factory.
We got the golden tickets.
I'm a thing, Oompa Loompa.
On TripAdvisor, I read that this place is often thick up with school field trips and whatever, but when we were there, we were literally the only ones on the tour. Private tour of the Shanghai Zotter Chocolate Factory, y'all. It was dope. They take you all the way through the process of making chocolate, starting with the raw beans, and then they let you sample it at various stages or at various ratios of cocoa to sugar. My favorite was at 90%, super bitter, delicious. The kids preferred a much lower ratio. They also had white chocolate, which is basically just sugar. Then they start having you mix in fruit or other flavors to get the feel for what it's like to be a chocolatier. You can sample everything, pretty much as you want. They warn you up front not to overdo it. At a certain point, I was starting to feel like I was topping out on chocolate, and our tour guide was like, "You are 1/3 of the way finished, sir." We paid a little extra money so the kids could make a DIY chocolate flour. Sampling the whole time, I'm gonna get my money's worth. Then they take you up to the chocolate bars and all the crazy flavors. I was partial to the chili pepper ones and the coffee ones, but there are so many. They had chocolate shots, like infused with whiskey. Oh, and then they're like, "How about some hot chocolate?" I'm like, "Yeah." They take a glass of milk, heat it up, and then you choose a melting chocolate bar and straight up just stir that into your glass of milk. I'm talking about the richest possible version of this thing. I had one called Bird's Eye Chili. It was dark chocolate, chili pepper. It was my jam. After the tour, they take you through the gift shop, and I'm like, I can't even look at chocolate. Y'all should have sold me this before. The kids were laid out. Zotter Chocolate Factory. All right, that place was bomb. I highly recommend it, especially if you have kids. This was like one of their highlights in Shanghai. You got Lost Plate, you got Chocolate Factory. I could have made this 2 episodes, but you know what? It was a treat for us, and I wanted it to be a treat for you, street foodies. Next week, more sights and snacks from Shanghai. Until then, keep eating it on the street, watching out for the parasites. Street food.